Beneath her name were 3 other girls who had all gone missing over a span of 6 years, all from nearby towns. Until now, no one had connected those disappearances. Each case had been handled separately, each with its own theories, none of them solved. Now, those cold cases were suddenly very warm. Investigators realized they weren't dealing with a single incident, they were possibly looking at a pattern. Hidden in plain sight for years, the discovery changed everything. What was once thought to be a tragic but isolated crime was now beginning to look like part of something far bigger and much darker. Detectives expanded their search, combing through forgotten reports and surveillance footage from surrounding counties. The FBI was brought in to assist. Pressure was mounting, and so was fear. Back in the neighborhood, people who had once dismissed the case as tragic but distant now looked at their own surroundings differently. Who had they trusted? Who had they waved to without thinking? And who else knew what Harold Vance had been hiding? The Harpers, already worn thin by years of uncertainty, were hit with a new wave of fear. If Emily's name was just one of many, was this about her? Or was she part of something even more disturbing? And if Harold wasn't acting alone, who else had helped keep this secret buried for so long? After weeks of non-stop investigation, the breakthrough finally came. DNA results from the items found in the trunk confirmed what the Harper family had both feared and prayed for: a match. To Emily, the evidence was overwhelming personal items. A small scrap of fabric from the backpack she was last seen wearing, and a single strand of hair. It was the proof police needed. The case that had haunted the community for 8 long years was no longer a mystery. It was a confirmed crime scene. But as investigators dug deeper into the notebook and followed the new trail of missing girls, the unexpected twist hit hard. Surveillance footage from an old gas station on the outskirts of town showed Harold Vancier's a go meeting with a woman. At first, she was unidentifiable. No one paid much attention to her in the early investigation. But new facial recognition software flagged her. It was someone shockingly close to the case: Emily's former babysitter, Janine. Janine had moved away not long after Emily vanished. She had cooperated with police at the time, said she hadn't seen Emily in months. But now, her connection to Harold couldn't be ignored. Digging into her past revealed a disturbing pattern. She had once lived in the same towns where the other missing girls had disappeared. Suddenly, Harold Vance didn't look like the mastermind. He looked like the cover. Authorities issued a warrant for Janine's arrest, but she was already gone. Her apartment was empty. The trail had gone cold again, but this time with a clearer picture of what had really been happening. Emily's case was no longer just a mystery. It was the center of something much larger, something planned. And as the Harpers prepared to finally lay their daughter to rest, one question still echoed. If Janine was still out there, was someone else still in danger? In the weeks that followed, investigators continued to search for Janine, now the prime suspect in what was being called a multi-state abduction case. Tips poured in from across the country, and her face appeared on news broadcasts and online. Alerts, though she hadn't been found, her connection to Harold Van Sant, the disturbing notebook, was undeniable. Authorities believed she may have used Harold to carry out the crimes, using his reclusive lifestyle as a way to stay hidden. It was a chilling realization. The man they thought was at the center may have only been a piece of the puzzle. For the Harper family, closure came in fragments. Emily was brought home and laid to rest with a quiet ceremony attended by neighbors, friends, and officers who had never given up on the case. There were tears, but also a sense of peace in finally knowing the truth. Lauren Harper, once frozen in time by hope and grief, spoke briefly at the service. She was never forgotten, she said. And now she's not lost. The other families whose children were named in the notebook also received renewed attention. From investigators, Cold cases were reopened, and fresh leads gave hope where there had been none for years. Though the path forward would be long, the momentum was finally in motion. This story, Emily's story, is a reminder of how even the smallest detail can unravel the biggest mystery. A forgotten crawlspace, a dusty trunk, a name on a piece of paper. It also shows how darkness can hide in plain sight and how important it is to keep asking questions. Even when the world stops listening, as the sun sets over a town forever changed, the search for justice continues. And somewhere, someone knows the rest of the story. Asterisk. It was an ordinary school morning in a quiet suburban neighborhood when 10-year-old Emily Harper stepped out of her front door, backpack slung over her shoulder and a smile on her face. She waved goodbye to her mom like she did every day. That was the last time anyone ever saw her. No one could have imagined that a short walk to school would turn into a mystery that would haunt the town for years. Despite massive searches, media coverage, and desperate pleas from her family, Emily had simply vanished without a trace. For 8 long years, there were no answers. Her family held on to hope, but the case slowly faded from headlines. Then, one random afternoon, everything changed. A team of electricians was called to an older house just a few blocks from where Emily went missing. They were checking the wiring beneath the home when they found something that stopped them cold. Hidden deep in a dusty, cramped crawlspace was an old, rusted trunk sealed shut. What was inside would raise more questions than answers, and send a wave of shock through the community. The discovery reignited a case that had gone cold, pulling detectives, forensic teams, and even neighbors back into a story they never truly left behind. As investigators peeled back the layers of what had been hidden for nearly a decade, long-held secrets started to come to light, some that certain people never wanted revealed. What happened to Emily that morning? Why did no one hear or see anything? And what exactly was in that crawlspace that led authorities to reopen the investigation? Stay with us as we uncover the chilling details and follow the twists and turns that shocked even the most seasoned detectives. This is a story about hope, loss, and the truth that refuses to stay buried. Emily Harper was known by everyone in the neighborhood. Bright, kind, and full of energy, she was the kind of kid who made friends easily. Her usual morning walk to school was barely a 10-minute trip along a route filled with familiar houses and friendly faces. On the morning she disappeared, the weather was clear, her routine was the same, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. That's what made it so terrifying. She was simply gone, no scream, no struggle, no sign of where she'd gone or who might have seen her. Her parents, Lauren and Mark Harper, were thrown into a nightmare. Flyers were printed, search parties were formed, and local news ran the story for weeks. Police followed every lead, interviewed neighbors, checked security cameras, and even brought in dogs to track her scent. But every effort led to a dead end. It was like Emily had vanished into thin air. As years passed, the case grew colder. Some people moved on, some quietly speculated, and others never stopped hoping. Lauren, especially, refused to give up. She kept Emily's room untouched, just as she left it. Birthdays came and went. The porch light stayed on, a symbol of hope, or maybe denial. Then came the call from a local contractor. The house just a few blocks from the Harpers was being renovated for the first time in years. The Electricians went under to replace some outdated wiring, expecting the usual mess of cobwebs and pipes. Instead, they found the trunk. Old, heavy, and strangely out of place. Police were immediately alerted. The house had a history, but no one ever connected it to Emily until now. As investigators combed through the scene, one question echoed. Louder than the rest, had the answer been right there all along, hiding in plain sight? The news of the trunk spread fast. Police sealed off the house within the hour, and the neighborhood once quiet and forgotten, in the case. Buzzed with curiosity and unease, people gathered near the property line, whispering theories and revisiting memories from 8 years ago. The homeowners, a retired couple who had recently bought the place, were in shock. They said they'd never even gone into the crawlspace. The previous owner had lived alone, an older man who'd passed away just months before the sale. His name was Harold Vance. Detectives quickly shifted their attention to Vance. He'd been quiet, kept to himself, and rarely spoke to neighbors. No one remembered him acting suspicious, but no one knew much about him either. A few people recalled. He had a van and worked odd jobs around town: plumbing, yard work, even some electrical repairs. As investigators pulled records, they found something chilling. Harold Vance had once done minor work on the Harpers' home. Just a few weeks before Emily disappeared, forensic teams worked carefully, cataloging everything found in and around the trunk. Opeved. They were tight-lipped about the contents, but sources close to the case confirmed something significant was found. Something that pointed back to Emily. The Harper family was contacted, though police remained cautious, not wanting to give false hope or stir more pain without confirmation. Meanwhile, a second angle opened up. A former neighbor came forward, claiming she remembered seeing Harold's van parked near the school around the time Emily vanished, but she never thought much of it. That small detail, overlooked at the time, was now under serious scrutiny. Investigators started pulling old surveillance footage from nearby businesses, long stored and nearly forgotten. The deeper they dug, the more unsettling the picture became. Had Harold Vance been hiding something in plain sight? Or was someone else involved, someone still watching, still out there? As the investigation deepened, the pieces started falling into place slowly, but with a growing sense of dread. Detectives uncovered an old storage unit registered under Harold Vance's name, left untouched since his death. Inside were scattered belongings, faded tools, and boxes of paperwork. But what caught everyone's attention was a set of photographs. Some were of landscapes, others of people, but one photo stood out. It was of a girl with light brown hair, wearing a pink backpack. The image was blurry, taken from a distance, but it looked hauntingly like Emily. Authorities brought in experts to analyze the photo, trying to match facial features with Emily's school portraits. Meanwhile, they ran tests on items recovered from the trunk, hoping for DNA or fingerprints, anything that could confirm what everyone feared. The Harper family, caught between hope and horror, waited in silence. For Lauren Harper, each phone call from the police felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. While the media reignited interest in the case, new leads started to surface. A former co-worker of Harold came forward, saying Harold once mentioned a second job he kept off the books, helping fix things for someone else in the neighborhood. But he never said who. That tip sparked new suspicion. What if Harold didn't act alone? What if someone had been helping him or covering for him? Then, something unexpected happened. A second crawlspace, this one beneath a nearby vacant property, was flagged during a follow-up search. The house had been owned by Harold's cousin, who had since moved away. What investigators found there wasn't released publicly, but the tension among the team was obvious. Police began working around the clock, quiet but urgent, as if they were racing against time. Something big was coming. And everyone felt just when investigators thought they had finally narrowed the case down. A second twist sent the entire investigation spiraling in a new direction. At the newly discovered crawlspace beneath the vacant house, forensic teams recovered several items, among them a weathered notebook. Inside were scattered notes, dates, and what looked like coded messages. But one page stood out. It listed multiple names. Emily's was at the top, but she wasn't the only one.